Hi, Brandon. Okay. So, and then let me put on the screen share. One second, you guys.
So one quick question for you, Nicole. Uh-oh.
Yes.
So you think we'll be out of the office until next year?
No, but I think that there's going to be some element of us having to adjust the way that we do business.
Right.
Through that. They're projecting that because California, I mean, this is what I do at night, right? Like I put my kids to sleep and then I like lay in bed and read the news because honestly, for me personally, it is much harder to get through the day if I take that on at the beginning versus the end.
Right.
So, you know, I think this is a worthy conversation of us having as a group, right? So in the morning, I get up, you know, Brandon, Trish, and I have a call about an hour after I kind of start my day.
Okay.
And I just create certain goals. I have like, okay, here, what are the must do things that I want to accomplish for today? And I'm not picking a huge list of things because a lot of stuff comes up. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like I'm having like a 10 item long to-do list.
Okay.
I have like a handful of things that it's like, okay, kind of like my game. Like if I can end the day with these things done, I'll feel like I've moved the market center. And by virtue of that, all of your businesses forward, like, you know, I love my touchdown analogies, like 10 yards by 10 yards, right? Like we're just going down the football field, right?
Right.
So I start there, and then there's whatever comes up. And then, you know, for those of you with kids, you've got to deal with, you know, homeschooling and having them home and the 30,000 snacks they need, which I think is so funny because I don't know about you guys, but mine bring home like full lunch boxes, good 3 days a week, right? So I'm like, how is it y'all are gone for 8 hours? You don't eat all this food, but you're home and it's like 10 snacks, but never mind that. So between all those different things, we get through the end of the day, we finish what we aim to accomplish. And then at the end is when I've been kind of looking at, okay, what are they talking about on the news? What are things looking like, right? And then I also look on the financial side, you know, what are they saying about that? What are the end of the day conversations around the stimulus package, and so on and so forth. So I think for every one of you, it's worth looking at because, you know, we as a staff have wanted you all to take on your tech adoption aggressively in this time because most of us don't have time when we're rolling through and busy with appointments and all the other things that we usually spend all day on. Right. We don't have time to figure this out. But right now we're all home, and that's like the real opportunity of it. So it would be something like, you know, if you know you've got a call with Brandon in 3 days and you had X amount of things you were going to do, breaking those up into smaller bite-sized tasks and saying, okay, today I'm going to get like one thing done
right
for my tech. And then I'm going to do, you know, for everybody that I coach directly. I mean, I think I even said it on this call last week, start small. If you're somebody who hasn't done any lead gen, say, I'm going to just do 5 a day. Just start with 5 a day. Right. And then spend some time in command getting some things set up so that you can start posting to your Facebook business page. If you don't have a Facebook business page, that might be the first task that you take on that you're going to say, okay, I'm going to get that done today. Right. And then we'll kind of go from there. So is that helpful to anybody?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I think that because I don't know about you guys, but in these challenging times, for me to have at least 1 or 2 wins every day, it's a big motivator. And it makes it a little easier to have it not be as daunting when it's like, you know, I don't have to take on everything. It's like, okay, these 3 things today, right? And that's where we're going to start. So I'm going to throw up the screen share. How do I do this? Share screen. Okay. Slideshow. So, you know, as we go into a shifting market, we all know lead gen is going to become critical. And I want to have today be fairly interactive. Are you guys okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes. Mhm.
So why do you think it's really critical when the market shifts for lead gen to jump to the top of the list?
So why do we think what? Say that one more time.
Why do you think lead gen becomes like super important when the market shifts? Like more important than probably 6 months or 3 months ago, or even, you know, whatever it was, 7 weeks ago.
It's the previous market.
Well,
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. I'm listening.
Because your lead generation from the previous market is already set. Now the market shifted. That's not going to work now. You have to shift that with it to account for whatever just changed.
Right. And typically when we're talking about a shifted market, it's really less deals. That's, you know, I mean, there are multiple factors that go into why that's the case, but the long and the short of it is that there are less deals. So that means that for a lot of us where we didn't really have to do much and things kind of just came our way, that was because, let's say in a given month in Inglewood or out of your database, there are 30 people who've already decided, hey, I want to do something, right? And they have some relationship with you or someone refers them to you. Out of 30, you get 2, okay, great, right? Things are awesome. You maybe didn't have to put forth a ton of lead generation effort for that to come your way. But what happens when that 30 now becomes 15 and we have the same number of realtors trying to compete for those deals?
Right.
Right? So we just need to get a little proactive around it so that when there are less deals to go around, you know, you're actually doing the work to have some of them come to you proactively versus hoping that you get something without causing it yourself. So perspective. This is what we just talked about. The amount of leads is diminished. So lead generation now becomes your business. A lot of us, we're not, I mean, I don't know, I don't want to say speak for people, right? But you ask, I probably would say 10 realtors, you know, why do you want to be a realtor? What's the answer? Why do you want to sell real estate? Why did you guys get into
money?
Make money. What else?
To have a free schedule.
Free schedule, help people, right? Now, when you had those thoughts and thought, okay, this is going to be great. I can make money, open free schedule. I get to help people. Did your thought next go to that you're going to have to now go out and find those leads?
When I came in the real estate business, that really wasn't the case. It was 2005, so it was easy to make money then, which is what drew me in.
Right.
It evolved, and now I've had to learn how to be a real estate professional. But when I first came in, for me, it was easy to make money. I didn't even have to think hard. Now you have to learn a lot.
And that's how it is for most people, Juan. You know, when we look at the like board and car statistics, when the market is strong, it's when everybody's throwing their hat over the wall to say, you know what, I'm going to go sell real estate. Why? Because it's like, oh my God, it's so easy. There's so many deals. I should, you know, try to get a piece of that. Now, that's when we talk about in terms of this shift that there's going to be a massive washout of agents. What do you think is going to be the major determining factor on who washes out and who survives?
Business.
Well,
People having business and people.
Go ahead.
And people having the desire to you know, to continue to hang in, and also kind of intestinal fortitude to kind of make it through, you know, this little downtime that we're having.
Yeah, but there are going to be people that doesn't matter how mentally tough you are, if you don't have any money coming in at a certain point, you're not going to be able to carry on. So it's going to be the people who have business versus the people who don't, and how long that time period extends for. And the ones that, you know, have business, the deciding factor is going to be who doubles down on the lead gen and who doesn't. Really, you guys, that's what it comes down to. So buyers and sellers use agents. You can start to see here, I mean, these are, you know, old statistics just based on when this course book and PowerPoint was put together. But, you know, you could see that we have all of these agents in 2015, and then this is what the projections are based on that. And when you start to look at that, when those numbers start to decrease as far as the transactions and the home sales, but the number of agents stays the same, which it will for a while, we've got to get to work. So let's just have a conversation about this. What is your current mindset on lead gen? And I really want to hear from the newer people, because my long-term agents are, it's not as hard to get you guys to do this. It's really the newbies that I think struggle the most. So what's your current mindset on lead generation? You know, those of you who are, you know, 3 years or less in the business. When I say you got to lead generate, what do you think?
Can I say something? As a person who's been in the business for a while, it's harder for me to do lead gen because it's not new. You know, like it's not new, and I find myself coming up against, you know, people ask me what I've done, and I don't have like a, you know, I don't have like a quantifiable number, you know, like, oh, I've done 20 deals in the last month, or, you know, 20 deals in the last, you know, last year. It's more like, I'm still in the business. How can I help you? So for me, it's a little bit more of a difficult, you know,
well, here's what I say about that, Io. Mm-hmm. That is the rub. The reason that you probably don't have those numbers is that you're not doing lead gen.
Right.
And I'll be honest, very rarely do people ask you that until you get to the appointment stage. So that would be a conversation that would be more impactful on your conversion rate, not on your lead generation statistics. Does that make sense? So the part of, okay, so I mean, Juan, I'm going to call on you next, but the part of what have you done, that's usually a conversation that happens on the appointment. When we talk about lead gen and those statistics, we're talking about how many leads you're generating daily, weekly, monthly that are leading you to appointments. And then once we have the appointment, then we look at the conversion rate, right? Appointments to actual signed contracts. And that's where that comes in. So I would assert that probably that's coming. I mean, is that what you're having people ask you on the phone?
Well, I mean, you know, a lot of people know me for a long time. You know, the people that I talk to know me for a long time. And, you know, I've been more like project orientated than actual like sales orientated. So while I say, you know, I finished that project, or that project was finished successfully, you know, I can't say, you know, they're like, so what do you do? You know, how many sales have you had? So they do ask me, you know, because some of these people are people who are in the business. A lot of, I mean, most of my contacts are people who are in the business anyway. Right. So they are, well, you know, they do ask.
What I would say is that we should probably start you on a different script then. If that's leading you to that question, then we need a different script. So Juan, what were you going to say?
Okay.
I was gonna, you know, add in for what Io was talking about. Like when I came back in the industry in 2010, I was a new guy. And the new guy, in some cases that works to your advantage because it shows that you're hungry. See, some clients don't really want a seasoned agent because they're gonna feel the seasoned agent is lazy, they're just gonna hang out, they're not gonna press the edge of the envelope. So use your newness as more of a selling tool, is that you're hungry, you're willing to work harder as your competition to, you may have a seasoned agent that has done a lot with respect to where you are, where you may not have. Use that as a selling point. Seasoned agents gonna hang out, they're not gonna drive, whereas a young agent that's just starting, I'm gonna work hard for you. That's your comeback to that. Don't let it just beat you up. That's what I was
And I think that's a really great conversation, Juan, that script for whatever level you are. You know, I think that any client wants their agent to have that be the conversation, that I'm going to get this done. I'm your full partner in doing this. I'm hungry for the business. I'm going to take care of you and work as hard as I possibly can to create the most positive outcome for you as my client. So, you know, I think what's really good though, Io, about what you're sharing here is that it's speaking to, you know, what your current mindset is on lead gen. And that's going to be one of the first things that we really have to start to deal with, which is all of those limiting beliefs about how we're going to do it, why we can't do it, why we can do it, and you know, what needs to be in place in order for us to be effective at lead gen. So one of the things that I know I discovered for myself in generating leads, right? So I don't know if everybody knows, but I started out as a commercial agent. I've never sold a house. And that is the lion's share of what you do when you start out on that side of our business, is you are all day, every day, cold calling for leads. And one of the things I will just tell you, and I think it's valid for us to discuss here, is it doesn't feel good to do that all the time, especially in the beginning. But the more you do it, the better you get at it. And the better you get at it, the more results you produce. And who doesn't love producing results? Have you guys ever seen those Wall Street movies? You know those movies where it's like all those like stock trading guys, and they're on the floor and they're just like super excited and everybody's yelling and they're like, you know, cheering when they, you know, I just made you $1 million, ah, right?
Right.
That is the back end of becoming masterful at this. Those guys, they never show you that part in the movie where those guys sit in a room and they get hung up all day for, you know, 6 months, right? They show you that side of it. And I'll be honest, that is what's available here if you step into the mastery of this part of our business. Yes, you might want to have the schedule that's free. You might want to make money. You might want to help people. But if you have no people to help because you haven't done your lead gen to find them, you're dead in the water. If you don't have any people to sell for or sell to, you're not making any money. So, you know, this is an integral part of every single person on this call, every single person who, you know, takes the test, gets a license, pays dues to be able to transact and sell real estate. This is a part of that. Now, what's beautiful, there are a ton of ways to do it. You know, not everybody is going to do it cold calling. Not everybody's going to do it door knocking. But there is a long list of ways that you can start to do your lead gen. And one of the things I'd like to do as an exercise on this call is look at, for those of you who did deals last year, where they came from. So let's ask everybody on this call to take out a piece of paper. And if you did deals last year, I want you to, from the, you know, the best of your memory, write down where those deals came from. How'd you get that deal? So you want to look at, you know, how many were from past clients, how many of them were from your database that you called, how many of them were from internet leads, how many of them were from your website or your Facebook page, how many of them, you know, what are other ways you could do it? How many of them were referrals from agents? How many of them were referrals from friends or family? Okay. And then if you didn't do a deal last year and you are a brand new agent, on this piece of paper, I want you to write down, because we're now in April, from January until April, how often you are doing your lead gen activities. So you want to look at it and say, and I wouldn't use just the time we've been home necessarily. I would look at like the breadth of it and say, okay, on average, I'm doing it not at all. I'm doing it once a week. I'm doing it twice a week. I want you to write down, what are you doing as your activity? And then, you know, we're going to go through. I'm going to give a few of you an opportunity to share. I don't want to call on anybody because, you know, I don't think people like that, but I do request that you guys get up on edge and share, and not just the same people always sharing, because this is really designed for you to get something out of it that makes a difference for you. And if you are on this call passively, very little difference is going to be made. But if you're on the call actively, sharing and participating, there's really a lot for you to get out of this. So I'm going to give everybody a minute to do that. Does everybody know what we're doing? Is there anybody who has a question about that? So if you did a deal last year, you're writing down where'd your deals come from. And if you didn't do a deal last year, you're telling the truth about in the last 4 months, 3.5, how often are you doing any sort of lead gen activity, and what activities are those? We'll give everybody another minute or two. Okay, is anybody ready? Anybody who's done that can share? Anybody? Okay, Juan, where'd your deals come from last year?
Cold calling.
How many?
Say that again.
How many?
How many? I had a slow year, so I had 2 from cold calling.
Okay.
2 from juniors.
Okay.
Or juniors or past clients. I think that is the mix of it.
Okay.
Last year. This year, I say if I take all of this year, I'd say 2 to 3 times a week in cold calling. And
Okay.
now I've incorporated. So if you take an average of it all, maybe bi-weekly on social media, even though I've been trying to get, I ran a few ads already and starting to see more activity where people are clicking on them and they're noticing them and they're going to my pages. Now I can begin to put out little content as I begin to develop. But that's what I'm doing now.
Okay, I love it. So what I'm hearing you say is really the lion's share of your business, from what we look at from last year, cold calling, super effective for you. And then we've added in a new lead gen strategy, which is using the Facebook leads, and you're starting to track and assess the activity there to add to your calls. And you're
Correct.
saying you're doing about 2 to 3 cold call sessions a week.
Yes.
How much time are you spending per session?
I'm gonna hour.
Hour? Okay, great.
Hour, because it's a mojo hour, so it may be 180 outbound dials, depending on who I'm talking to. But after that, I start drifting and I'll be thinking about other stuff. So now I'm in the deal servicing. I haven't been able to kind of get that call muscle past.
No, that's perfect though, what you're saying, Juan, because for some people, that's what's most effective is short blasts of cold calls. So for some people, right, it's like, okay, I'm going to, time block a large chunk of time and I'm just going to like bang them out until it's done, right? Like almost setting an egg timer, and it's like, okay, I'm starting. And then when that goes off, that's when I'm done. And I'll move on to the next part of my business, the next part of my day. For other people, a really effective strategy is kind of like what Juan's talking about. What I would say the opportunity for you is that you break it up. So maybe you do an hour, then you stop, you do some of your deal flow, transaction management stuff, and then throw in another hour in the afternoon before you're done for the day. See if that makes a difference. Okay. Even if you change that last part, 30 minutes start with, and then try to bump that up to an hour, and then spend another 30 minutes to 60 minutes setting up like follow-up, data mining for people that you might want to call the very next day. So now you are still doing 3 hours, but not as one big block.
I agree. See that 4 or 5, 6 hour block is insane. you know, just give me an hour here. But yeah, I think that's nice. I'll add an extra hour, or I'll try to work on adding an evening session. So
Yeah,
a little
just
bit in
take
the
up
morning,
to
so
it.
in the evening. Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, awesome. Who else? Do we have a new person who's willing to share? Anybody? Don't be shy. Anybody willing to share? No, I'm not surprised. Nobody likes this conversation. So here's one of the things now we can go into, okay, so what do you want to be saying on these calls? Oh, I have all my notes. So one of the critical things that you want to make sure that you're doing when you are in a shifting or shifted market is you want to make sure that you are clear about the current state of things, because the average consumer knows that things have changed, but they don't necessarily know how things have changed. For example, sometimes people feel like they know and what they believe is inaccurate, right? So you want to have a chunk of your day that's actually devoted to studying the local market. What does that mean? That means you know how many new listings are hitting the market. You know, what are we seeing as far as pricing goes? You know, you can easily look at what traded 6 months ago for a flipped or renovated 2+2, and how does that compare to what hit the market yesterday? And those are going to be really effective phone calls that you can then make with people who've either raised their hand or you're just calling to check on them and they are saying to you something like, well, I know that the market's crashed in Inglewood. And you can say, well, actually, no, I just looked and this is what's hit the market in the last week. And 6 months ago or 4 months ago, this was the price and this is the price yesterday. And, you know, the ones that we saw in the last 4 weeks are still only taking 20 days depending, right? It's not like we're starting to see the days on market tick up in our area. Or maybe you are seeing that, right? And we're seeing things that 3 months ago or 6 months ago would have been pending in a week. And here we are in the second or third week and it's still up and available. And now you can have a conversation from, well, it was a seller's market and we're starting to see things move toward a buyer's market. Here's how I know. Does that land you guys?
Yes.
So part of your lead gen is going to be taking time every single day to look at what's happening in our submarket specifically so that you can be an expert while you talk to people in whichever way you choose. So here are some of the things that you can talk about when you're on these calls, right? New developments in the community, what's coming available, homes on the market. You can, you know, you always want to be abreast of what the inventory is and what's happening with that inventory. And then selling and negotiating techniques. Those are some of the conversations that you're going to use these statistics to inform, right? You know, this one's been on the market extra long. Maybe we could get you a better price than we could have gotten 6 months ago, right? Or the inventory is super tight and your house is gorgeous. We can probably stay at the same price point we were at before, even though everybody else has had to reduce their prices. We should do it now before things go lower because we might not be able to get you this number in a month. Make sense?
Yes.
Same thing, financing options. That's where you want to make sure that you're on Tom Corcoran's weekly call. That's where you want to, you know, stay in touch with our auxiliary service providers so they can, you know, Kevin Sales is really great about that. If you're on his webinars, he is telling you everything that's going on out there, and you can use that as information as part of your script when you call your clients. And then, you know, all of you should be getting fairly industry specific news from whatever board you belong to. And then, like I said, when we started out the call, I spend the last part of my day, like right before I go to bed, I read the news. I don't like to watch the news because those people freak me out. So I read the paper. It's like 10 o'clock at night, make sure I know what happened for the day and kind of have an idea about what people are looking at or what's developing or unfolding out in the world and in our business as the week progresses on. And then here are a couple of different publications that are industry specific that you can check out. I want to pause. Does anybody have a question about what we're talking about here?
Yes. Well, I have something to ask in conjunction with what you're saying
Mhm.
is, do we have an updated version of the objections that we're hearing? Do we get that as part of the new package, whatever Gary's doing, Gary Keller?
Yeah, I sent that out at the very beginning of this time period. They
Okay.
released a series of scripts. So I can have Brandon send those again. I think you got them, Heather, because you had sent them to somebody, right?
No, those are just scripts. They're not objections. Like the objections with the response is what I'm looking for.
Let me look at it because one of those was specifically named that.
Oh, okay.
Overcoming buyer and over, it was like 6 or 7 files, and one
Oh,
was
okay.
overcoming buyer objections, overcoming seller objections. Let me double check, but I'm gonna have Brandon, who's on this call, resend those 2 separately at the end of this webinar, because that's gonna be huge in you guys having these conversations with your people. So that's a really good thing that you brought that up, because that is what lead gen is it's becoming masterful in scripts, dialogue, and overcoming objections. And there are several that we're all going to hear over and over and over right now. And so Keller Williams International gave us a list of ways to overcome those. So it's really, really good that you brought that up so we can make sure you all have them.
Okay, thanks.
What about for everybody else, as we just kind of talk about these study topics, right? And we look at this is what you want to spend. This is actually part of your lead gen. This is where you get clear about what you're going to be able to talk to people about as you create the opportunity for people to step into doing business. Should I keep going?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So these are some of the numbers. I mean, I've gone over part of this, right? That you want to make sure that you're looking at and understanding, especially if you're a brand new person. This is really easy for you to do. Let me see, I'm seeing a chat message. Okay, Brandon just posted, you guys, a link to the Google Drive where the scripts are. Brandon, will you send that out via email as well? See, I love how fast he is. So, and I'm also going to send out this list so you guys can look for yourselves. Okay, what numbers do I want to make sure that I understand? And you'll start to notice that as you're able to have conversations with people and you have this information readily available, like in the front of your mind, it instantly creates confidence. Like, oh, wow, this is somebody who really knows what's going on, right? And even if that person's not ready to transact, you're going to be at front of mind for them when somebody else in a conversation says, I got to get out of my house. They're going to be like, I just spoke to Nicole Grant the other day. She knows everything that's going on. You got to call her. Make sense?
Right.
Do you see how this instantly has your communication, your lead gen become way more effective just by virtue of doing this work?
Yes.
And there are a lot of you that why you don't like to do lead gen is you don't know what to say. This is what there is to say, right? Yes? No?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. So let's keep rolling. So you also want to look at what price range is most active in your market. Why do you think we want to know that?
So you may be able to select that as a target, and you see in your market area.
Not only that, there are going to be a lot of you that are going to have people, especially on the buy side and different, leads that come in. It's going to start to help you understand where to spend your time. So there's going to be people who are going to raise their hand and want to do something. And in fact, right now is not going to be the best time for that person in that particular circumstance. So we had talked about on one of the previous webinars is actually learning to distinguish where to spend your time versus where not to. And this is going to be part of how you determine that. So obviously we love these books. Millionaire Real Estate Agent is what we coach from most of the time in the Market Center. There's Millionaire Real Estate Investor, and then Shift, which is what this whole web series is based on. And you can get all of these on Amazon. And then I believe we had sent out a link a couple weeks ago that Shift was downloadable for free. I will also resend that today. so that you guys can read through these chapters in addition to the student manual and the PowerPoints, which I've been sending out at the end of the day whenever we have these meetings. Why are these really critical? Because what Gary Keller and Keller Williams is known for is like kind of having a specific model. Do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. When you do these things in this order, the way we're saying, you produce these results, built out of 40 years of masterminds with the most successful people across our industry in these various aspects of it. So that's why these are great study resources for you as you look at what do I need to be doing? And obviously Brandon and Trish and I are also a resource in supporting you with that. But everything we're saying to you is coming from here.
Hey, Nicole, also, each one of those are also available in Audible. So like I listen to them while I do my walks, especially those shifts.
So good.
Audibles too.
I do too. I mean, when I prep for these classes, I read the chapter and then I listen to the Audible a couple of times so that I can get my mind around understanding it in a way where it's like I'm saying it versus reading it once and trying to recreate it. You do need to hear it a few times. So that's really, really great. And you guys, I mean, we're not driving a ton, but I'm sure you guys have stuff you need to do, chores. Just throw that on in the background. Okay. So this is really, really great, this last piece. Well, not last piece, but this next piece is confronting the media. I touched on this a little bit ago. There are going to be people who are going to see things that are coming out in the news and assume that that's like a blanket statement nationally. Oh, say, you know, home prices are falling, right? And then you have sellers that were thinking about selling and now they watch CNN and they think, I can't possibly sell my house right now. You know, I'm going to get cents on the dollar for what I would have gotten. I better wait. This is going to be a big part of where you want to make sure that you're a market expert and you know what's going on specifically in Inglewood, South LA, whatever part of our farm area is specific to you and your clients where you like to work. Some of you like Ladera, some of you Baldwin Hills, some of you are up in View Park, you know, or a combination of those. You want to make sure that you know exactly what's happening with the homes, the home prices, the transactions, the days on market in those areas so that you can actually have a really intelligent conversation that's in contrast to whatever people are seeing on the news, because that might not be the case for us. And you also want to reframe those negative messages because there's always going to be a silver lining. Somebody, when something bad happens, has something good come out of it, always. True or false?
True.
True. And that's what this shift mindset's all about, is discovering what are those opportunities in moments like this. So you want to be looking for that when you watch the news and then when you do your market research for our farm specifically, so that you can have those conversations. So this part where it says, this is really good. How can you become the media? Wait a second. There you go. How can you become the media? Who knows how you can take this market research and sort of be your own media voice? Anybody? Could you guys not create, and Brandon will show you how to do this, could you guys not kind of, you know, take some of this market research, then combine it, not market research, but take some of this like news, widespread news conversation, then take our market research and layer it over the top, go into Command and create like a quick flyer that you send to your database or you post to your Facebook page, your business and your personal, that says, you know, sales down 15% in the nation, not in Inglewood, sales holding strong in Inglewood and South LA. Call me to find out more. Do you now not then take on that same role as what the media does? If you do that. And Brandon's saying here, it would take less than 15 minutes to create. So that's just one really easy, simple way for you to now take the market research you're doing for, you know, to be able to talk to your clients, talk to your database effectively, right? And then create another lead gen source where now you're able to put up something on social media or put something in an email blast, send it to people that you know, or even people that you don't necessarily know, have a call to action in that marketing piece, because that's really the difference between marketing for brand recognition and lead generation, which we call an indirect touch, right? Is you have a call to action. You don't share all the information. You leave a little bit of information off. So that person actually has to email you back, call you back, Facebook Messenger you to find out the juicy part. Is that resonating, you guys?
Yeah, like leave the price off or something.
Yeah, it's like a teaser.
Yeah.
So you're going to take your market research, you're going to use that on the phone. You can create a little thing, like Brandon said, 15 minutes in your command, send it out to everybody, leave some of the information off so they have to call you and be like, wait, what's the rest of the story? That's really interesting.
Right.
Make sense?
Yep.
And now that's 2 levels of your lead gen that you accomplish out of that same 30 minutes to 1 hour of market research that you did. Can you guys see that not everybody and all the other brokerages are going to do this?
I'm
Like,
sorry,
it's
what you said?
simple. It's simple. It's not like rocket science, but can you see how it's like just nuanced enough that if you did this, you would be competing at a different level from everybody else,
Definitely.
right? Because here's the thing. Every realtor is in the same boat together. What's going to differentiate you from everybody else is that you do this while the rest of them aren't. There might be other people who are doubling down on lead gen and they're making a ton of calls. Number one, they don't have command, which makes all of this that much easier for you to do. Number two, they're probably not reading the news, then doing market research, overlapping the two, having a conversation from that place, and then spending some time looking at a scripts on objections that are specific to a shifting market so they have comebacks for all of people's concerns. Just puts you at a different level, whether you're
Yeah.
brand new or seasoned.
But they also don't have you, you know, that makes all the difference in the world.
Oh, thank you, Ray.
But what I'm saying is that, and I know, guys, because I've come from several different offices and mindsets, this, what we're talking about, what we're doing right now, just isn't there on any level. It's like every man for himself, every woman for herself. And the fact that we have this camaraderie makes us, you know, come from a place of love. It warms my heart that we're all doing this. I love it. But the other thing that I wanted to tell you in conjunction with this is, you know, what you're saying about having the call to action and not giving everything away right away. Are you, when you say that, you're talking about video, or are you talking about print, or all of the above?
Yeah, all of it. That is
Okay.
And that call to action is what turns it into a lead generation opportunity, because
Yeah.
they now have a reason to call you. Because, you know, if you look at all that other marketing, right? So Brandon and I were talking about this morning. So we get all of this, everybody gets this. You guys get all of this stuff in your email. You may open it, you scroll past it, you delete it, you move on, right? Because it's right there. Now, if it was, okay, you know, here's the opportunity, and you now have to reach out to that person to find out, right?
Yeah.
Now,
Right.
the person is essentially raising their hand, and they become a lead.
Got it.
We don't have the opportunity to have someone raise their hand when we give them everything. So what you're going to say is, you know, like, what could you leave off? Let me think for a second, because I know how we would do it on the commercial side. Let me say it that way. And then we can translate it to the residential side, right? So on the commercial side, we would say something like, you know, this deal just closed, and we would give the cap rate, right? You know, 7 cap deal just closed at record-setting price per foot. Call me to find out the number. And then somebody's like, damn, I wonder what that, you know what I mean? So there's just enough, and then they have to call. And then I call and I say, Ron, I saw that. What was that 7 cap deal? I haven't seen a number like that. What could the price per foot possibly have been? And then he says it. That one probably isn't as good as an example, but you know, it's where you just want to leave just enough off that people have to call you, right?
Teaser, like you said.
Got it.
You would do a teaser.
Yeah.
It could be something like, you know, you use one of Tom's updates, right? And
Right.
Tom on and he says, okay, based on this new stimulus, there's this new like product type that we're able to roll out, and it's for these kinds of people. So you would say, you know, new product, you know, new lending product type that allows, you know, specifically geared toward investors. Call me to find out more. Or, you know, I mean, we can actually play with it a little bit, and you know, I'll have, as we have the vendors, everybody else, like do these calls. We'll make sure that they're coming on prepared with how you guys can take a nugget from one of those calls and turn it into something else. And Brandon and I will, between now and Thursday, look for an example so that you guys can start to see, like, okay, well, how would you do it and what would it look like? Would that be helpful?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, cool. So let's keep moving. So for 30 minutes to 1 hour a day, you want to study, practice scripts and dialogues. What's
Okay.
it you guys could
I
do?
appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming out.
Sure, no problem.
Guys,
I'm here.
so you could do it with a partner, right?
With a partner?
Yeah, so if you or somebody, because you don't necessarily want to practice on your customers.
Right.
So what you might do is find a buddy and say, okay, I'm going to do my market research at 9 o'clock. And then I'm going to have a 15-minute call with my buddy at 10 o'clock. And then I'm going to do lead gen from 10:15 to 11:30 every single day. I feel like if everybody on this call committed to just starting with that, you would literally create such a massive bump in your business. Massive. We could even set it up. I mean, I've done this in the past, but you guys could set it up where we have an open Zoom call every single day at a certain time, and you guys can kind of practice on each other. But what it will do if you do that is it will start to reduce the call reluctance that you feel when it's like, like, I don't really know what I'm going to say. You just need to kind of work the bumps out the first couple of times. And then the rest of it is truthfully, you know, people won't remember if you kind of muddle through it the first little bit. And as long as you do leave them with something of value, they're not going to be upset about a bumpy call. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Good. So we're going to keep rolling here. So we're going to practice scripts, listen to others. That's where you really get a great opportunity if you're working on it with a buddy.
Okay.
And then you can also jot down notes so that you have something to look back on. Time block for practice. And then some people like to record and then critique themselves. So you would throw on a memo, pretend that you're the client, work out what you think you're going to say so you can get a couple of the bumps out beforehand. These are just opportunities for you to, you know, take action to feel a little less nervous about doing it. When I was learning how to cold call, I used to have to record them. And then I had to send them at the end of the day, 3 calls. And you know, I would try to send the best ones. And my best ones were still horrible. And I would just get ripped to shreds. Like, why would you say that? That doesn't even make sense. You're saying every other word. But my point in saying that is that you do start to hear things that you wouldn't remember or even notice if you didn't play it back. So even whether, you know, it's, you can't really do it with real clients, but even if you got on the phone and did it with a buddy back and forth a couple times, someone in your house, whatever, it'll make a difference and you will get better. But what I want you guys to notice about this conversation is we are really developing a craft and becoming masterful at something that will serve you the duration of your time in this business. Not just this business, any business. A great salesperson, a great lead generator is valuable across industries. So this is what you want to figure out, your practice plan. When are you going to practice? Who's it going to be with? And what's going to be your reward? You can create a game for yourself around, you know, okay, I'm going to do my practice and then I'm going to, you know, take a break or just create something so that you can almost look forward to it. And then you want to make sure that you're blocking 3 hours a day. Now, like you guys heard me create with Juan, not all of that 3 hours has to be all together. Not all that 3 hours is going to be spent on the phone. Some of it is going to be phone calls. Some of it is going to be your prep and practice. Some of it is going to be your follow-up. And some of it can also be, you know, the creation of some of this marketing that you're going to be sending out. But you also need to make sure that you're setting aside time to follow up, because people are going to ask you for certain things, and you need to also make sure that you're delivering on those promises as you have conversations with your prospective clients. So prepare, take action, and maintain every single day. So here you go. No excuses, you guys, to lead gen. If you don't want to start with strangers, start with calling people you know. We call that your sphere. If you spend all the morning with your email, then time block to do your lead gen at the end of the day. Some of you wake up and you've got like all this transaction management and you get bogged down with that. That's no problem. Start with that at 9, say that then you're going to have lunch at 12, and then start your lead gen at 1. If you can't reach people in the morning, touch them with a voicemail instead. I'll tell you, so I only did one deal last year. That was a listing that I had brought with me before I was a team leader. How I got that listing was I had, I call through my database. I mean, it takes me, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 months to do it. So over the span of, I don't know, 9 or 10 months, I had left this gentleman, I don't know, a bunch of voicemails. And I wasn't the only one calling him, but I was the only one calling him like clockwork. And one day out of the blue, he called and said, I want to sell my gas station, and you have left me like 8 voice messages. So, can you tell me how much it's worth? And I ended up getting that listing. I had never actually spoken to him in person.
Wow.
That was a $6 million deal, not too shabby.
Right.
And that was just from being like consistent. So, even if you aren't reaching them, you never know. I always like to call it planting seeds. You're planting seeds. Some of them are going to grow now. Some of them are going to grow later, but you want to be planting every single day.
Right.
So you also want to set goals. You want to set a number of calls, number of contacts, and then how many people you want to add to your database. And then all of you should have backed out of your business plan when we did that at the beginning of the year, how many appointments you need to reach your GCI goals. If you haven't done that, you need to right away get on a call with Brandon, because it does it for you in command and will give you these numbers as you set up like what you want to do as far as volume and units this year. And then, from there, it backs out the rest of these numbers. I have a certain number of as a team leader, right? I have to do calls. And for me, I would set aside a certain amount of time every day, and I would not stop and move on to the next thing until I hit my number, which for me is I needed to set 6 a day. So until I do that, and I don't do it every day because I know how many I need to get done. And I know that if I do 6 a day, I only need to do those calls about 3 days a week. But sometimes, and Brandon and Trish can attest to this, sometimes I sit down and I get them done by like 12 or 1. And then other days at like 4 o'clock, I'm like still calling, trying to get it done. I'm not saying that's how you need to do it, but you definitely want to look at your totals and break them out like that so that you know if you're on track or if you're not. Does that make sense, you guys? So you're not just kind of like arbitrarily doing whatever.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. And listen, it's not, I know that for me, I sometimes I don't know, for each person you have to look for yourself. I like to start a little bit lower and work my way up. Why? Because when I have wins every day, I feel more excited about the accomplishment of it. If I say I'm going to do, 50 calls today, and then every day I'm like done at 20 and I never hit it, at the end of the week, I'm just like discouraged, right? But if I say, I'm going to do 10 today, and then every day I do 10, it's like you start to feel good and get excited about it. Then it gets easier to tick up to that 20 incrementally. But you have to look for yourself. Everybody gets motivated different ways, but that's one way to do it. That's personally how I like to do it. So, this is the pipeline. You've got your listing management piece. You've got the certain number of that you have listings that you take monthly. Then you've got from that a pipeline of buyers and sellers. You create value for them that, then based on however much you earn on that goes into your GCI. And then these are some other tools that we can use, which is a trend and a lore report. If you're somebody who's been an agent with us a long time, you have these reports so we can discuss that online. And this is, you know, similarly that you have your listing appointments go into listings taken. You need to, you know, create value for people so you can get these deals closed. And then that's how you generate your profit out of your closings. So finding them motivated. Is you want to make sure that as you do your lead gen, you're, you know, reaching out to people who, number one, you have a method that allows you to qualify them, and that you have a message that creates the opportunity of doing business right now. Because people who are going to buy or sell in a shifted market, you guys, are not buying or selling for the same reason that people were buying and selling 6 months ago, 3 months ago, even 2 months ago. So you want to make sure that as you shift your conversation around the lead gen, you're taking that into account. Like, we've got to talk about what's happening now, not what was happening before. And we have to understand that people who are motivated right now are being motivated at some level by what's also happening, or they have considerations about that. So you need to acknowledge those same things in your conversations with people and in your lead gen. So there's prospecting versus marketing. We talked a little bit about that, right? What the difference is between the two. Where you want to lay your focus is definitely on the prospecting side of things. And you want to match your market. So you have your target audience, and you want to also take into account your market conditions. And then there's a direct versus an indirect offer, which each call for a response. The indirect offer is really almost where that leans more towards marketing. We really want to have something that is like a call to action for people to reach out to you, so that you can ascertain whether they're going to be able to do business right now or not. So make an offer for immediate response. When you make an offer for immediate response, the more immediate response, the more motivated the lead. That's what we're looking for. People who are super motivated, not on the fence. Why don't we want people who are on the fence right now?
Because they're not ready to make a move right now.
Well, they might think they are, but if they're not super motivated, what do you think is going to happen in the transaction?
They may back up.
That's right. It might be harder to get them closed. The more motivated the person is, things pop up that sometimes make people a little nervous, especially in a shifting market.
Right.
The less motivated person, not going to close. So we want to find the most motivated people to get into deals with right now. So this is going to be an assignment, you know, write 5 statements that you can say to potential customers about the market, the opportunity, and your expertise. This is going to be the baseline for what you're going to use as your lead gen script. Yeah. This is just another kind of image to show the difference between prospecting and marketing. You can have both, but we want to lean towards the prospecting, you guys. And we want to have a call to action where people have an opportunity to make a direct response to you, send an email, click learn more, give you a phone call, text, email, like that.
Okay.
So here are examples of prospecting offers for a direct response. Okay, so I'm going to send this to you guys. Okay, and these are just some scripts that you can use when you're talking to people, you know, on the phone. I'm doing a survey in the area. Would you mind if I asked you a few questions? I don't love that one. This is the one I really love. I just sold a home down the street, and there were a lot of interested buyers. Do you know anyone else who might be interested in selling their home?
Okay.
So here's a direct response. If you want to sell your home now, call me. Are you looking for your dream home? Call me. Would you like to know the value of your home? Visit my website. Call this toll-free number, right? Do you guys see why I'm not as excited about these? Right? The indirect response, not as motivated. It's like kicking tires. We want to find the people who are really excited about the direct response.
Right.
Okay. So you could also do both, right? You could start with indirect, and then you could follow up with a direct response, the 1-2 punch, they call it. So, you have two different ways to generate leads. We are going to really double down on prospecting. For some of you, there's the opportunity to continue marketing. I would say you have a real opportunity to do that with things like video on social media, right? But I would spend the lion's share of your time on prospecting. You could also use some of that social media video to have a direct call for action on it that could end up turning that into a little bit of both. Focus on prospecting with direct response offers. That's the quickest path to business. It's low cost, and once you get really great at it, it's something that carries you all the way through and will impact your GCI year after year. So here's some things that you want to maybe take on in setting yourself up to be really successful with your prospecting. Shut the door, close out your email. A lot of people like to call in front of a mirror so you can watch your expressions. I really love that because I've discovered people can hear your smile over the phone. You actually do sound different when you smile and you talk to somebody. They can hear and feel that energy. Working on your scripts and definitely creating a way for you to avoid interruptions. There are going to be a million things that your mind is going to want to tell you. You absolutely have to do right now so that you don't have to continue with the prospecting, because let's be honest, we don't love to do it. So creating as few of those as possible during that time period, whether you do 3 hours at once or you break it up into an hour or so at a time. And then here are a couple different pathways for you to find those people: sellers, expired listings, or FSBOs; for buyers, open houses, or investors. And then back to your Mets. There are a bunch of you that have people that you spoke to last year or that you know or have done business with in the past, and you are not talking to them. And that is where a lot of you should start. That's when we began this series, that was the assignment after the very first class, was to call the people that you are already in relationship with or have done a deal with, and remind them you're in real estate, let them know you're a resource, find out if there's anything they need. And then obviously right now, this is going to be a challenge for you to get out in the community, but some of these other things, what we've discussed on this call, social media, video, posting to your various pages with useful information that you create out of your market research. Super, super useful. And then there's also some of you that are a part of different Facebook groups, different community groups. That's also a really great lead gen source for you. Lanisha Stubbs, who's on this call, gets a ton of business out of different business, women, entrepreneurial groups. Those are great opportunities for you guys to generate leads. Your church, your kids' school, your kids' sports team. Start thinking out of the box. And, those guys probably have questions about real estate and might not have anybody who's calling them to update them on what's going on. That should be you. So I want everybody to think about what new sources of leads you're willing to explore. And it says by when, I would like for you to take that into your planning for this week so that you guys can all add one new place that you're going to look at calling people to have these real estate conversations, supportive real estate conversations, to start generating leads next week. Okay. All right, guys, so here we are, home stretch, the bottom line. Get going. The day you start is the day that you start, the day that you start is the day that your business begins to grow. The day that you start is the day that your business begins to grow. So this is what we're doing. This is the game, you guys. Who's got questions? Anybody?
No, I'm good.
How about ahas?
I do have one question.
Yep.
What I've been doing is calling around, calling some of my friends.
We can't hear you.
It's around the
It's
COVID
a little tough
virus.
to hear you. Can you say that again?
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
That's better.
Okay. And, it tends to get into longer conversations, you know, like one day I had an hour-long conversation with somebody. How do I, you know, kind of transition from, you know, making it like because it is a personal call, but then how do I transition to make it into a business call without like abruptly ending a conversation if you know, if it unexpectedly goes deep?
I would say by asking a question.
Okay.
You know, asking a question. You know, I think if either by asking a question or sharing something useful. So that's where your market research is going to actually come in handy. You know, if I'm calling you and I know that you live in Baldwin Hills and we're talking about this, that, or the other thing, and I say, you know, hey, Io, have you been out? Have you been out walking around? What's it like over there? Are people, you know, out and about, or is it still a ghost town when you go out to water the grass? And you say, oh, Nicole, no, everybody's out. I see everybody out walking their dogs, blah, blah, blah. I say, oh yeah, that's so great. It's such a lively area. You know, it's funny. I was, you know, looking at the MLS today, and it seems like, you know, there's been no slowdown and the house is getting listed over there.
Okay.
And then stop talking.
Okay. All right.
And ask for some business.
Yes, learning to be quiet is a task in itself. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Stop talking. And then, you know, and then it'll go where it goes. But I think that if you can be on a call actually curious about where people are at, what's happening, what's going on over at your house, how's it being cooped up over there? Oh my gosh, I'm realizing how small my house is. You know, have you thought about upgrading? I mean, I don't know if it would work for you or make sense for you to do it right now, but you know, I've been looking and here's what we're seeing with prices. I mean, it's very easy for it to turn into that kind of a conversation, especially right now. Oh my gosh, right?
Right.
What you want to avoid though is talking people's ear off. I want everybody to listen very carefully. You don't want to talk people's ear off. You want to drop a nugget and then be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Ask a question and then be quiet.
Right.
Yeah. Have it be a conversation versus like talking as fast as you can to try to hope something happens. It's the best way to talk yourself out of creating a lead, right? You really want to give people the opportunity to speak. Who else? Who else? This is good. Don't be shy. How about ahas? Who got something out of this call today that they really felt like was, oh my God, that just like, you know, light bulb moment?
Oh, I did a couple minutes ago. We were
Okay,
talking, and what I ended up doing is I said, you know what? You ought to take your whole phone book and put it in Twilio and send everybody a text and ask them, is Juan my friend? You know, do I know Juan? You know, do I want to be in contact with Juan? Am I interested in real estate? Because there are people in your phone book that they're not friends, they're just there. So you don't really know who's there and who's not there. So you get to kind of filter your phone, but it's like, okay, I'm gonna send everybody a text and see what happens. So I was just kind of sitting here trying to figure out how to pull that off on Twilio. So, but that was an aha moment. Like, I wonder how many people on my phone want to do business, and I just forgot they're in my phone because I forgot their name, but it's there.
Yep.
So.
Really good. Really good. This is the kind of out of the box thinking that I think as you guys really take this on, these ideas will just pop up for you to do. And then as you actually do them and they work, you're going to get excited and then there'll be more. So can I get everybody on this call to commit to doing at least something before I mean, we're going to have another call on Thursday, but I would like for us to revisit this piece of it on Tuesday, that everybody doing prospecting. Look, if you're brand new and you're totally terrified, do the market research and, you know, find a buddy to practice on. Brandon, Trish, and I are all here. If you don't know anybody else in the market center, text one of us. I will gladly get on a 15-minute call with you and listen to what you're saying. We'd be happy to coach you. We would even be willing, if you guys were into jumping on it, setting up, something in the mornings, right? Where you could hop on, bounce ideas off of each other. One of us as staff will be on there to coach and guide you. But this is going to be huge for everybody having what they want by the time we all get to go back to work. If we don't do this, you guys, it's just not, the business is not going to be there. How do we know? Gary Keller spent 40 years doing this, and this is his like 4th downturn. And this is what he's discovered to be true. Yeah?
Yep.
Cool. All right, you guys.
Sounds good.
Cool. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being on today's call.
Holla.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yep.
Thank you, Nicole.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.